Hello, this is Greg Allison. It just so happens that the Kremlin has responded saying that they would attack Patriot missiles put in Ukraine. And these Patriot missiles are very likely to be manned by American soldiers. Hang on, I'm going to tell you why, and I'm going to give you the scoop, inside scoop that you're not going to get on any other YouTube channel. So just grab on, guys. So here's what's happening. The U.S. Defense Department put out reports yesterday saying that the Biden administration is finalizing plans to send the Patriot missile to Ukraine. Now, by the way, the Patriot missile, as I mentioned previously when I was standing amongst the ATACMS missiles and the HIMARS at Redstone Arsenal back last week, I believe it was, the Patriot missile was originally developed to be an anti-aircraft missile, but it was upgraded. The PAC-3 upgrades actually made it available for taking out cruise missiles and other missiles, the ballistic missiles. As you might remember, this was already in effect even back in the original Iraqi Gulf Wars, where this thing took out Scud missiles and did so quite effectively. Well, it's had some upgrades since then. And the reason I got an inside scoop is my son was a Patriot missileer. And I'm going to share some of that here in a moment. Not to mention, I work at the Redstone Arsenal, actually, in NASA at the Redstone Arsenal. But yeah, I'm amongst this community of missile men. So hang on, guys. We're going to talk about this. So what's happened, guys, is that the Kremlin's response Wednesday said that that these U.S. missile defense systems, the Patriot would be a legitimate target for Russian strikes against the Ukraine. And should the United States authorize them to be delivered to support Kyiv, that they would endeavor to hit these missiles. Now, like I said, these missiles are likely to be manned by Americans. And the reason for that, my friends, is the following. It takes better than a year to train troops to use these missiles, these missile systems. They're very complex. And even then, they may not be ready. Reports were they were going to train Ukrainians in Germany. Well, this war hasn't even been going on for a year yet. This war is like, 9 months long, maybe now. So, are we going to sit there and train? What can be? Maybe there won't be anything going on a year from now. Do you really think they're going to wait that long to send them over there? I don't really think they can train them up any faster than that, to be honest. My son, he talks about the units in Germany. He says they're not even combat ready. He said when he actually went to Germany, he was in one of those units. He said when he first encountered that unit, he was in Iraq. And he said they were broke down on the side of the road. They couldn't do basically nothing. He said those units in Germany. His unit, though, went to usually the missiles, the air defense systems are with the gear to the rear instead of out front with the forward troops. But that don't mean they still wouldn't be targeted, but they're usually with the gear to the rear because they got the reach. They can afford to be back there, and it gets them away from some of the immediate effects of combat. Not to mention very expensive systems. In fact, we're looking at having $3 million missiles take down maybe $30,000 UAVs, drones. I don't know. I hope that's not what they're targeting, but anyway, not exactly the. I don't know, guys. That's kind of. There are a lot of missiles coming in that they could target, though. A lot of missiles, Kinzel maybe. So these things are quite expensive. But here's the thing: the reason these units in Germany are broke down and not combat ready, according to what I've heard, is you have to have constant training and maintenance to maintain these missile systems. They're very complex. So I was told they might be able to get them trained up in less than a year if they're at a fixed facility site. You don't have to move them around. Well, that's part of what the idea with this missile is. It's supposed to be mobile, like HIMARS. But it takes a lot more to get this missile system established and ready to fire than, say, HIMARS. HIMARS is real highly portable, but that's another story. So let's look at this missile. The thing about it is that if it takes a year to get the troops trained, you can bet the plan is probably to put it in Ukraine before then, which means Americans in Ukraine. Oh, yeah. And it's just come out the British Special Forces have been in Ukraine. Apparently, they've been involved in a lot of the key operations against the Russians. Yes, NATO troops in Ukraine directly involved and engaged in operations against the Russians. So we're starting to cross a lot of lines that is putting us toward a slippery slope of escalations, because what's going to happen if Russia strikes American troops there? Are we just going to sit around and twiddle our thumbs and go, oh, that was not good? Well, I don't know. We pulled out of Iraq. That's the way we did. I mean, not Iraq. Well, we pulled out of that too. We pulled out of Afghanistan. Yeah, you got to wonder. You got to wonder. I'm thinking we would probably do something in retaliation, which means the other side does something in retaliation. And then it starts escalating. That's how things happen. That's how you get into an escalatory situation leading to greater, more intense war. And it's already pretty intense. We have gave the Ukrainians weapons, money, mainly weapons, and we have done the intel to find out where the targets were. We pointed them at them. It says, shoot here. We did everything but pull the trigger. But this time, we'll probably pull in the trigger. And what they're going to be taking down? Russian aircraft. So this puts Americans directly out there, probably, unless the American has a Ukrainian standing over his shoulder and he's getting everything set. And he says, oh, reach over my shoulder and push this button now. I don't know. There's a lot of potential here, guys. There's a lot of potential here for this to not go too well. And so we've got to really, and I'll probably put a poll question up here tonight or sometime this week. Is it really worth the United States risking getting in war with Russia to have this happen? Now, I got friends on both sides of this question. I got friends who would say, yeah, blah, 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 and get mad if you suggest not. Man, I got friends who look wide-eyed and say, that's insane. So I'm going to get attacked either way on this conversation. I get attacked either way. I'm trying not to take sides here. But what I'm telling you is there is peril in where we're going. Big peril. Some people don't believe that. They tell me the Russians can't push a button. Okay, we'll see. In any event, putting the Americans in Ukraine with Patriots, I don't know. It just so happens that the final sign-off has not gone across Lloyd Austin's desk yet, the Secretary of Defense, nor has it gone across Joe Biden's desk. They both got to actually sign off on it. But actions like this don't start in the lower tiers of the Army. This starts at the administration, and that's what's been alleged. So you got to understand these things. You have to understand where we're aiming at, what we're talking about, and what's at risk. So here's what Dmitry Medvedev had to say. Dmitry Medvedev, of course, was the only person who, besides Putin, served as a president of Russia during the era of Putin. Putin had to step down due to the Constitution initially after his first term or two, and Medvedev was his handpicked successor to serve in his place until he could come back. So Medvedev is not only in that regard, but he is also, as you might be aware, the deputy chairman of the Security Council for Russia. Deputy chairman. He seems to be the one doing all the talking, though, instead of the chairman. He's been talking quite a lot, as a ex-president might be expected to. But he says, if, as Stoltenberg hinted, the NATO chief, Stoltenberg, NATO supplies, he says, Kiev fanatics with Patriot complexes, along with NATO personnel. So he understands that these are going to require NATO personnel. They will immediately become a legitimate target for our armed forces. I hope the Atlantean impotents understand this. So, he's, throwing a lot of adjectives in there, calling, I guess, Atlantean, maybe that's for the North Atlantic Treaty, maybe because we're on the other side of the Atlantic. I don't know where he gets this Atlantean thing. Impotence. Well, that's pretty obvious what he's trying to say there. But anyway, now you see that in both sides. You see a lot of people use a lot of unnecessary adjectives to describe and, try to disparage the other side. It happens a lot in the political realm. So this is what we're looking at, guys. We're looking at the prospect that we will be directly engaged in war with Russia. This can't be good. This can't be good. You know, this is a way to create a no-fly zone without saying you're going to create a no-fly zone over Russia. You see what I'm saying? And the pundits, you know, out there, as usual, they're divided over this. You might say that's a typical thing. Like a Sean McFate, he's a professor at the National Defense University. He was talking to the Washington Examiner, and he told them that a Patriot missile defense system like this would be a major escalation and a major provocation. And then again, this guy who's Brad Bowman, who is the for the Foundation of Defense Democracy, he was telling the Washington Examiner, see, this is another magazine that's involved in this, that you know, it's ridiculous to say things like that. So, well, we shall see. We shall see. You know, he's talking, of course, that Russia's attack on Ukrainian, energy infrastructure was a major escalation. Well, yeah, it was, but that don't mean us getting involved is not an escalation. I mean, why are we the police war? Why do we got to be right in the middle of it? Just asking. Maybe there's an answer to that. Maybe it's a legitimate answer. But I think the question begs asking. The question begs asking. Our, you know, at least according to some people, I tend to be inclined to think this, that this puts our stake right here at stake. I mean, if this thing should escalate, I said the word if, okay? Don't say Greg said this. I said if this thing should escalate to a nuclear war, which I think is possible, and if it escalates to strategic nuclear, then we're on the battlefield. We're at ground zero base right here in the United States. And if you think it's all going, you one day you'll be here and one day you won't suffer. No, bad news is you're going to survive. You're going to have to deal with it, unless you live in a big city. And even them may survive because the nuclear target, main target sure will be our strategic nuclear forces, our military system. And don't tell me submarines are going to save it today. They're not. We're not going to be able to communicate with submarines because the EMPs and taking out satellites and all our means to communicate with them. They will not be able to get their emergency activation messages, which they have to have to fire. They have to have that and the validation message. They have to have both messages. Electronics won't even let the commanders fire the submarines without getting that stuff. And don't count on that stuff going through. I so many times I have people going here, and that's always their answer. Don't worry about it because we got the submarines. I'll take care of the business. Nobody will do anything because the submarines will take care of this. No, they won't. No, they won't. Forget about submarines. Forget about them. You know, we so watching maybe Crimson Tide. You know, in the movie, they tell you that we had gotten rid of the system that allowed submarine commanders to do that. Well, maybe we need to bring some of that back. We need to scale back, you know, and change our architecture for launch so that under certain circumstances, which would have to be defined, that the sub commander will have a little more latitude than presently. Yeah, it's a little risky, but right now, our subs are ineffective on the current policy and system. Anyway, it's my 2 cents on that. Agree with it or not, I don't care, but you can tell me in the notes below. You can tell me in the notes below whatever you think about it. But anyway, I just say you can't rely on it. You can't rely on deterrence and everything's going to be okay. And put your head in the sand, and well, you can put your head in the sand if you want to. That's your freedom. You don't have to prepare. You can put your head in the sand. And when your world blows up, though, don't come crying to me. Well, I don't want to hear you. When your world goes boom, and you, oh my God, don't say Greg Allison didn't warn you that it might possibly go boom. I got a whole series, whole playlist on my channel to show you how to do nuclear survival. That's vital. You need to look. I got a whole playlist, nuclear survival. You need to go down and look at my nuclear survival videos. They've not been watched that much. You really need to see them. So, all right, I'm going to share some things here, guys. Yeah. Hang on, guys. I won't make this short and sweet. I got other things to do. Good news is we still have specials on long-term food storage. Go to prepwithgregcom. $200 off long 3-month supply. It's 2,000 calories a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. When you consider that and how many meals you get, this actually is a great price. And if you can't afford that all at once, you're going to pay more than that, of course, the 3 months where you buy anyway. If you can't afford it, there is this. If you can't afford that, get beans and rice for Pete's sake, you know, and put them in long-term storage. You know, I do that too. I do both. And I got canned goods. I got all 3, man. And I got a lot of this kind of stuff. So, you know, that's what you need to do. And the good thing is these buckets are lightweight. They're easy to move and useful after you get done. I have your little honey pot. So there you go, my friends. Check it out, prepwithgreg.com. Go to prepwithgreg.com and it gets you there. So, all right, let's go on. Here's the Patriot long-range air defense system right here. And you can see it's all jacked up. The wheels aren't even on the ground. That's actually 3 of them there in a row. It's the MIM 104. And it's in Germany, Greece, Israel, Japan, Kuwait, Netherlands, Saudi Arabia, South Korea, Poland, Sweden, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Romania, Spain, and Taiwan. How about that? This thing is around. Apparently, some of the forces need a little more training and maintenance. This is the PAC-3 capability I was mentioning earlier. So they talk about how this capabilities were the advanced hit-to-kill technology, so they could take out missiles and cruise missiles and ballistic missiles. And the next tier up system is actually the THAAD missile. And then above that would be for ballistic missiles. First, that, you know, these take care of theater ballistic missiles. For the long-range strategic ballistic missiles, it's the missiles, again, developed by the Army that's in the ground at Fort Greely, an Army base in Alaska, where I used to be stationed back when I was in the Cold Regions Test Center. Fort Greely, Alaska has the, but there's not enough of those to even take out stuff. Man, we just have a few missiles up there. Not nearly enough to take care of business with Russia. It was intended to guard us from North Korea. We need to really rethink a lot of that. Here we are again. And you can see this one right here is really jacked up. Look at this, guys. You got to get level. That ground's not level. It's hard to discern from that photograph that this thing is level. There's a lot of systems on here to be operated. The radar systems, the missile systems. There's a lot of stuff that you have to have down pat to make this whole thing work and work correctly. And maintenance is key to all military systems, especially complex systems such as this Army anti-ballistic missile. So, guys, let's see here. Talking here about, let me show you something. This one. This is actually an Army website right here, armytechnology.com. I don't know why it's not .gov. Maybe it's not Army site. It is a .com, not a .gov. So I don't know. Maybe I should be careful here. Anyway, it's Army pictures, Army information. All right. Enough of that. Oh, yeah. Now here is Alexander Khodakovsky. Alexander Khodakovsky. He's the commander of the pro-Russian Donetsk People's Republic's battalion. So a whole republic only has a battalion for military. Kind of a skinny republic, in my opinion, if all even musters a battalion. But anyway, he is the commander of the Donetsk military. And he is saying, basically, that the nuclear war needs to be on the table. Let's see if I can find a direct quote from him in here. Careful showing this stuff. It's close. All right. All right, I'm not going to read that directly. Hey, you need worms, guys. Grid goes down, you get a garden. You need something to make your fertilizer without having to go to the grocery store or feed stores and garden centers. Come to this website and click buy worms. Bringgregs.com. Bringgregs.com. Okay, I'm gonna stop the share. Let's stop for a second. Again, my son tells me these missiles are very finicky. It takes a lot of maintenance and a lot of training, constant training to stay sharp. Now, my son's unit was so sharp, they actually were not the gear in the rear. His unit advanced all the way up to Syria, nearly to Syria, way up northern way up in northern Iraq. He said they got up there right behind the Rangers. As soon as the Rangers got there and cleared the place out, they were there. So my son spent a couple of terms, tours in the Army, and the missile systems there. But so I got to take his word at it. He was a sergeant. He was an NCO in the Army, and quite involved in the Patriot missiles. His main duty station, where he spent most of his time, was Fort Bliss. A lot of these missiles are based out of, where they're stationed, where their school the training guys are at, and where they do a lot of their training out there at White Sands Missile Base. It's a good long-range missile training place. Now, Redstone Arsenal, where the development offices are, where the engineers are at, does have some ranges for testing stuff, and we hear a lot of explosions out there, but they're not the long-range type offices ranges you have at White Sands. White Sands got some really big ranges and fire a lot of long-range stuff there. Anyway, that's all I got to say, guys. Here is that the risk is there. If you buy into it or not, that's up to you. I'm just here to help you understand what you need to know to keep your eyes wide open, the head on the swivel, to help you survive, thrive, and stay out of the hive. If this is something of value to you and you want to hear more of this stuff, subscribe to my channel, bang the notification bell, and click all. If you don't care, okay. Hope you had some fun. I'm trying to keep people alert of what they need to know about. And a lot of people are going to get an idea, well, nothing's going to happen. It's all right. We can we could jump in Ukraine and drive our tank straight to Moscow, and they're just going to run hide. Maybe. Do you really want to bank on that? Is it worth risking our nation over? Is it worth risking right here? Is it worth risking mom and kids, grandma and grandpa, our whole country, our national existence? Is this worth that? How far do we want to push it? I'm not saying I got the answers. These are questions that ought to be asked. But that's not the central point of this video or any of my videos. People hang up on stuff like this all the time. Blah, 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 blah. You know what? One way or another, in the end, if the missiles are flying, it don't matter who's launching them or why they launch them. It's missiles are flying. Okay? My number one objective is to get you to understand that it would be really smart to get prepared. It would be really smart to be ready, just in case. And if this don't happen, there's other things that could happen, and you'll be ready for them too. We're talking about potential war with China, Russia, China and India are on the verge of getting into it. We got a lot of potential wars going on right now, and there's wars and rumors of wars. We're discovering there's twice as much magma in Yellowstone as we thought there was. There's always a possibility an asteroid could hit us. But more likely, the threat that if we don't do anything, the threat that'll get us will be the sun, a solar coronal mass ejection, a flare that take out our power grid, and that would be a very bad day, and that is very likely. Over the course of a lifetime, a young adult, it's better than not. And that is why I don't just come on here, blah, 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 hold your head and saying, buy rice, beans, buy my stuff. No. I actually get involved with things to try to change this stuff. Somebody says, well, Greg, your stuff you predict never happens. Well, actually, a lot of it does, and I can go into detail about that. But all that aside, that's my point. I don't want it to happen. That's why I've chaired 2 power grid defense conferences at great expense in my pocket. That's why you can go to freedomrestorationfoundation.org and find a website where you can go in and take action yourself politically to try to avert a lot of these things we talk about. And there's a lot of alerts on. Go to the Action Center page. There's a lot of alerts in there you can act on to help give us a better future. And if you don't believe the feds can do it, then there's stuff in there you can do at the state level, state, federal government. We are actively engaged in trying to give us a little better outcome in the course of the things that are coming at us. If we just get a little bit of an edge, it'll help. It'll matter. And we got a grip on Facebook. We got a grip on MeWe. Just search for Freedom Restoration. Yeah, we don't just hold what we got. It's restoration. Freedom Restoration foundation.org.com, and also to assist you guys in forming groups to help you survive through all this stuff. We've set up at a great expense out of WWIII's pocket, survivaltribenetwork.com, survivaltribenetwork.com. There'll be links below, survivaltribenetwork.com. You just look in the show notes or the pin notes of this video, freedomrestorationfoundation.org, prepwithgreg.com, or greengregs.com. These are things you go to. Oh, yeah, I've also got we got a special deal now with LEHMAN'S, my favorite store in the world. So check below. The links will be below. But guys, we want a better day. We don't want this stuff to happen. But if it does happen, we want you to be ready. That's the key. We want you to be ready. We want to survive this stuff and get up after it's over with, shake the dust off, and build a better world. That's my objective. In a world without all the controls. Like I said, survive, thrive, and stay out of the hive. All right, guys, that's what we're talking about. So with that, I'm going to say thank you for watching, and Greg out.